as with last year and the year before, we have to use the word dynamic a bunch of times, right?
It's such a dynamic word.
No, last year you get punched if you use the word dynamic.
Welcome to the 3% podcast. This is our special music edition. And this year, we're similar to last year. This is Chad, and we're here with Kaija and Nate Furl, other two Open Letter employees, and we're going to go through some of our favorite songs from 2013. Although, I don't know about the favorite thing. A lot of these I ended up picking just because I wanted them to fit into crazy categories.
Agreed.
As is always the case.
I very specifically didn't choose some of my favorites.
I didn't either because some of them are on other people's lists. But that right there was The Falls by the Octopus Project, which is a band that I've liked for a while. I've like two or three other albums. But this is the one that came out this year. And I always find them very fun and kind of, not poppy is the wrong word, but like energetic and not conventional ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I like it. It's got a beat I can dance to it. And an 80.
There is kind of, I would love to see them live. I think that would be super cool. I think that'd be very cool. I have nothing more to say about them, so I say we go on to you, Kaija, and you're going to pick a song.
I guess I'll start just to go down my little post-it note list with Spectral Split by Panther du Prince and the Bell Laboratory.
Okay, we'll start the song, and then you can say more about it afterwards, or you can talk over it, because this is super quiet and it takes a long time to get going.
I don't know at what point it gets going, but...
I don't either.
I guess I can just say that for me, it wasn't that easy to find 10 albums. It was kind of pulling teeth and scraping the bottom of the tooth barrel. And most of the things that I ended up choosing were bands that I hadn't listened to before 2013, so a lot of new discoveries and not necessarily new bands out of nowhere. And one of them is the Panther du Prince, which I don't know anything about them.
Got
Him, there you go. Well, I'm not even sure. Is it just usually him, or is the Bell Laboratory tacked on?
Bell Laboratory it's him. He's the guy, and then he did this one CD with the
Basically,
Bell
I should just save my choices, and Chad should talk about them because I don't know anything about any of my choices.
Is the name of this group actually that guy's name, or does that translate to something?
No, his name is. So I was trying to find here. Heinrich Weber, or Weber, probably. Weber. He's a German electronic musician.
Heinrich Weber.
And yeah, it's just Panther du Prince is just the name he goes by.
A German electronic musician. Now I've seen everything.
You would never suspect that Germany would have such a thing.
No.
Not even bells. I guess what I like about it is that I sort of always liked watching the awkward bell player kids at any sort of church service or holiday service because the kids are all about 3 feet tall and the bells are the sizes of their torsos, and I just like the sound of them, and putting that into any sort of electronic background it's really interesting to me. I just like this album. It's like 6 songs long, and none of them are shorter than 7 or 9 minutes, something like that. And the fact that you don't really notice that you're listening to separate songs on an album, it just sort of flows together, and you do have the ups and downs in the music and places where it's like this really, really quiet, like the beginning of the song, and then at some point, probably minute 10 or something, it picks up.
You mean we're already 3 minutes in?
Is this the one where it goes into the big white noise climax kind of thing?
I think so.
This invoked a specific idea in my mind when I listened to it. It reminded me perfectly of, if you can imagine, you're in like a modern art museum and you go into a room and maybe there's like a black and white like film being played on the wall while there's music being played over the top of it to give a kind of like experience sort of art piece. This sounds like exactly like the music they would be playing.
This thing that I'm looking at here, so there's performance at the Melbourne Recital Center. This is that Weber, is how we're going to pronounce his name, led the audience into a sonic world in which he creates computer-driven music from the live harmony of resonating bells, xylophones, and other percussion instruments. While Weber just guides the performance with computer systems responding to a pre-designed composition, blank pages in the score cue the musicians to descend into moments of improvisation.
Oh, what's his name? George Martin, the producer for the Beatles, the fifth Beatle, had classical musicians do similar things while trying to figure out how to fill out interesting areas in Beatles songs when they're doing some more of their kind of like eclectic, strange, trippy things.
That's cool. I like Panther Prince's last album too quite a bit. Nate, you're up.
Okay, well, I'm going to go for straight counter-programming off of the first 2 songs and go for something that is a little rock and roll and upbeat. I'm going to choose Thorn in Her Pride by King Khan and then the Shrines. And I also want to say about this King Khan guy, before we start it, because he has a really weird life story. I didn't find out about him until this year. And by the way, I'll just also say I had the opposite experience with this year's music from you, Kaija. Last year, I felt like choosing 10 albums was a bit like pulling teeth. This year, like a lot of people that I've been listening to for years came out with albums, and also more interesting new albums from people I hadn't heard of before. So I had a hard time narrowing my list down.
I had a lot of stuff on mine too.
King Khan is a guy. His last name is actually Khan. He's was born in Canada. Now lives in Germany. He's traveled around a lot. But I just before I came in here, I was looking him up to find out a little bit more about him. He has these like big kind of crazy performances where he used to like. He's been in a lot of different bands. He dresses up in costumes. Sometimes he cross dresses. Sometimes he wears a Speedo. Sometimes he wears like a suit with a tie. But I did find a picture from 2010 where he was playing at the Cannes Film Festival where he pulled down his pants and stuck his ass directly in Lindsay Lohan's face, and TMZ took a picture of it. Which means he's pretty fucking awesome. And I think the song will probably show that he's awesome too.
It's a little Manfred Manny, a little blinded by the light.
The first thing I thought when I heard this song specifically was that like it's really Rolling Stonesy, and I'm not a fan of the Rolling Stones, but I do like his kind of throwback take on them.
It's like it is like classic in that way, I guess. I wasn't going to name any specific thing, but it has that 60s,
yeah, like
70s.
A lot of things in this album have kind of like classic rock and roll, and sometimes almost even a little psychedelic kind of rock and roll throwback.
Right.
Felt like it'd been so long since I heard someone who's just writing like a rock and roll album, man. There's nothing else going on here. It's just some good rock and roll.
Yeah.
sugar sing.
According to what I've read about him, he's a man who goes by many names.
Where did she go?
I said, fuck this podcast, I'm out of here. Let's bring in Will Cleveland.
Where's Will Cleveland anyways?
Will, choose your song next. Will?
Will Cleveland's next song will just be some rapper none of us have ever heard of before.
Yeah, let's just play any miscellaneous Drake song, and it'll be just like he's here.
We gotta pull this together and get it on track. So, after following up with your rock album, I'm gonna go in the rock vein too, with the Throwing Muses album that came out this year, Purgatory and Paradise, which Throwing Muses were like my favorite band back in college, in particular with the release Limbo, and Kristen Hirsch's solo CDs are amazing too. But I didn't know that they were doing anything anymore. She's older now, and she had a different band called 50 Foot Wave for a while. But apparently this year they got back together and released this hugely long, like 32 song album. Most of the songs are like 2 minutes long. What's that?
I didn't know it was that big. I hadn't listened to the album. I only listened to the 3 songs you pulled out.
Some of them, the album as a whole is really interesting because a lot of the songs have numbers. So it's like Smoky Hands 1, Folding Fire 2, Folding Fire 1, Cherry Candy 2, and there'll be like little riffs or clips for like a minute, and then it'll go on to the next song, and some of them come back, so they have like certain riffs that come back into songs. The ones that I picked for our list are the ones that are most song-like.
Wait, so does it feel like they were doing all these bits as part of like a larger composed piece, or were they like odds and ends?
No, I think that they did it intentionally, like as a larger composed piece, and the album, which I don't have, is a book. That comes with this. It's not we just have the digital Spotify one, but the album itself is a book, and it has writings of her. She has a memoir that she wrote a long time ago too, or not a long time, but a few years ago that's out. And I think that this book maybe explains more of like what the construction is.
Well, and if it comes with a book, that kind of helps add a little more sense that it's like this larger kind of like art piece.
Yeah, I really love them. I always really love them. There's something like very distinctive about their sound and constructions, but they were like right around the time of like the Pixies and Belly and all those bands, right. And they were like my one. And I got to see her a few times in concert. I also really liked her because she's insane. And like when she stares, her eyes look fucked up. Like she's not in this world. And she's been hospitalized a bunch of times. She's like literally was a little bit mad and a little bit schizophrenic for a while. But her most famous song is probably Your Ghost, the one that she did with Michael Stipe, that if I played the beginning of it, I'm sure you've all heard it. But I just love, love, love Throwing Muses, and it's cool that they came out with an album that doesn't totally suck.
Use of soap, the soft shelled, laborious, morons like me, and you're not sorry. Piece of cake to shake off principles, hard-won scruples, and pretty virtue. Crushed into the bottom of my yellow sand like a slipper shell. Chrome like phosphorescent teeth and my yellow skin. You're a slipper shell, and you can go to hell. say it's hard luck when you're so happy. Hard to say it's hard luck when we had it coming. Crushed into the bottom of the yellow sand like a slipper shell. Chrome like phosphorescent teeth in mud yellow skin. You're a slipper shell and you can't go to hell. Maybe see me there. Can't you see it's a way out? Made of cloud. Can't you see the way out? It's why I feel small. It's why I can't go home. Wallet full of fat, belly full of milk. You're touching me deeply fulfilled. You're very old. You're very new. You're touching me deeply confused. Can't you see it's your way out? Made of cloud. Can't you see the way out? It's why life is small. It's why I can't go home. Can't you see the way out? Can't you see the way out? Can't you see the way out
Is it something that they're planning on staying together, or just kind of like a quick?
I don't know. I mean, I looked up the one night when this came out, or I found out it came out. I looked up their website, and they have all of their old albums are available to stream on there for free. And there's like some random news, but the news at that point in time was like from a year ago.
Yeah, well, it seems like this last year, and that maybe like the last year and a half, has been like this ridiculous time where everyone's favorite band from back in the day got back together to release an album.
Yeah.
But no Chumbawamba, so I'm just left out of the circle on that one. Goddamn.
I still really wish I could find the Chumbawamba song, Give the Anarchist a Cigarette, because that was the one Chumbawamba song that I really liked.
There was more than one?
Yeah, it was before that, but it was before they became popular. And it was like, well, if you look up the Chumbawamba CD, it was banned in Walmart. This was like a big deal because it's a picture of a woman giving birth, and like the baby's coming out of her space, and so they like had that as the cover.
Where is it coming out of?
Space.
Her
Or
space.
downstairs mix up.
The way wherever babies come from, a stork.
No, a woman's space.
and so they wouldn't sell it in Walmart, but it had the song "Give the Anarchist a Cigarette" on it.
When Nevermind came out, didn't everyone put their sticker on top
And
of
the little penis.
yeah.
The
On
little
top
stop-
of
the little
the
thing.
baby's space.
The baby's face. Okay, your turn, Kaija.
Jesus.
Who you want to go with now?
I'm just gonna go down my list and go with the No Eyes by Baths. This is another, and much in the same way it was hard for me to find 10 albums. I feel like this year was sort of, I'm usually pretty good about looking into new music or into albums and following along, but this last year I just didn't really do it. So I feel that a lot of the things I listened to were things that were more or less handed to me. Like, you might like this, or something that was playing in the office or at home, just like on the radio or anything. And Baths was one of them. The reason I really liked this album, really took to it, it's sort of creepy at times, but it's creepy in a very not even creepy. I wanted to say creepy in a comforting way, but there's something about it that I just really like. I mean, when I was in Riga in November working on translation, this is the album that I basically listened to on loop the entire time that I was there.
You take me and I'll take you. In that pit there in the smoke, I can never make out your face, or at least I can't remember it. I have no eyes, I have no love, I have no hope. And it's not a matter of if you mean it, but it is only a matter of come and fuck me. And it is not a matter of if you love it, but it is only a matter of my fix. Can swallow away the pit in my throat. This isn't the adulthood I thought I wrote. And I never see your face, but I just might be okay with that. I have no eyes, I have no love, I have no hope.
He intentionally wanted to make a darker album now, this Obsidian, but in between when he started recording it, he got like E. coli and was sick and like couldn't do anything for like 3 or 4 months, like recovering. So I think it seems extra dark, and he's gone out of his way to say like, it's not that I got sick and then made a dark album.
Yeah.
This was along the way, but it was like delayed for a while, I think, because
Yeah.
he nearly died.
Come and fuck me, and it's not a matter of if you love me, but it is only a matter of my fix.
I like the desperation to the lyrics and to what he does with his voice. Just like little, some of the vocals are whispered, and it has this sort of sad desperation to it in a kind of a bubblegummy voice.
And it is not a matter of if you mean it, but it is only a matter of come and fuck me. And it is not a matter of if you love me, but it is only a matter of my fix. And it is not a matter of if you mean it, but it is only a matter of come and fuck me. And it is not a matter of if you love me, but it is only a matter of my fix.
I think it was a playwriting class I took in college, and one thing I really appreciate about this song and about the album as a whole is that the one thing I took from the playwriting teacher, who was a little kooky, as I guess a lot of creative writing teachers are, one of the best things she ever said is that if you're going to use the word fuck in a play or something, you can go to excess and use it way too much, and it just loses its significance and its weight. Or if you're going to use something, use it once and place it well. And I feel like in this album, where he uses it in this song it's fucking brilliant. Like it's there's one place in the album where you could put that word and it would be in this song, and right where he puts it,
It's a Catcher in the Rye level of perfect fuck placement.
Yeah, I really like the album cover too. It's
Creepy.
it's
The album
creepy.
cover is cool.
And it's,
I had
and
this
it's
on my list as
dark,
the
but-
best album that came out the same week that Vampire Weekend thing came out. Because the Vampire Weekend being number one on Pitchfork's thing, I thought that was kind of like the perfect.
Since you brought that up, I wanted to point out, because we make fun of Pitchfork every single one of these podcasts, right?
Yeah.
So, within the top 10 of Pitchfork's best albums of the year are The Arcade Fire,
Which is terrible.
Daft Punk,
Which is terrible.
My Bloody Valentine.
I love that album.
It's I'm not pointing these out because they're necessarily all bad, although some of them are. There's a thread here: Kanye West, Vampire Weekend. When you consider these things being all within the top 10, I think anyone, like, we've been disliking Pitchfork for years, but at this point, they're officially not cool anymore. These are all the albums your dad is listening to.
That top 10 list could easily have been in Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah, well, we looked it up. Like, New York Times had a far more eclectic list.
I don't think even
Yeah.
my dad got into Vampire Weekend this year. To sort of take that comment half seriously, like.
Well, maybe.
I'm-
Dad's an exaggeration, but like they're no longer the cool kids. They're the kids that are like a generation below it. You know, people always say, like, how can Facebook stay cool forever? The bigger you get, the harder it is to be cool. Like, Pitchfork's clearly having the exact same problem.
Because, all that stuff was, like, so typical. Like, there's nothing on there that you're just like, what the shit? Okay, your turn, Nate.
Okay, I'm going to go with something that wasn't on my original shortlist choice, but it's on the long list. Because it's not like that, but it seems like it would bounce off of it nicely. It's a Daryl Earnhardt Jr. song called Hiding. This is a band that I didn't listen to for a very long time because their name made them sound fucking intolerable.
Yeah.
But they talk about them in KCRW all the time, which I tend to listen to all the time. Like, I finally paid attention to what song was attached to their name, and I think maybe they did an in-studio concert. And I really liked them. And then I listened to their album, and I really liked it. It's the way I would kind of describe it is there's this trend of all these albums that kind of mostly electronic sort of albums that, like, Pitchfork loves more than anything, and they're all just so boring. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. seems like it's cut from some of the same cloth from them, except they actually have the guts to write a fucking melody. And, like, a really, really good melodies. And, like, throughout the album, like, there's a lot of good melodies, like, kind of Beatles-influenced melodies and all this. But at the same time, musically, they kind of sound like a lot of these other bands that Pitchfork would like, who didn't bother to review this album, by the way.
Oh, really? The one, I haven't listened to this album in full, just the songs that you had on there. But the earlier one, It's a Corporate World, I listened to a few times.
I steered away from them for the longest time just because I thought they must be annoying. Their name is annoying. But they're really, really fun.
If I can't have you, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? If I can't have you, oh, tried and true, buried out behind the screw, where the mud is thick as glue. What am I gonna do? This is what she said to me. Covered up in skin, all the vessels there within, every single little sin. Covered up in skin, and your head is on my lap. All your cells are little maps, and I can't tell where we're at. So just go back. This is what you said to me. Ain't hiding, ain't hiding no more. Ain't hiding, ain't hiding no And the grass is long and tall in the field behind the mall. Covers you about the shawl. Don't you feel so small?
Yeah.
At least according to their album artwork, I think it is. But I really...
I thought it was just one. I thought it was
think
Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s son.
Yeah, obviously. But I think they're just very, very good at what they do, and I really respect them for having... Like, it takes guts to put a hook in a song. It's really easy to not do it. And when you do it, you're more open to criticism and being criticized for failing because it could suck. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these bands, like, they make their living off of not doing that. And these guys, every song is like, here's a great melody, we think. I hope you like it. And I think they do a really great job of it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pick up on that and say, here's one that's gonna make most of our listeners turn off their music for a second, or at least turn down the volume. But the reason I say that, or the reason I want to play Valedictorian by Dan Friel, is because it is all these like sort of catchy melodies thrown together and very loud and very aggressive.
Like, this song makes me think of like a high school dance or something where there's one guy in the corner just kind of like, do what I want, and just like
he's just
like,
wigging out. He's just on his own. Yeah.
Does
The
it.
pictures of Dan Friel are sort of like that too. Like, he looks like he just like sits in his basement
Just,
with like
waving his arms,
this huge like
stomping his feet.
yeah. Like do you remember when we saw Phenomena, when there was the one guy that played like the one instrument in the back, but he had the crazy hair, like the sideshow
big
Bob
fro,
hair, and he was
yeah.
just like
So
all
he's
over
basically
the place.
Animal.
Yeah, he looked like that, but like really happy.
but with one of the egg shakers.
Animal's
like,
happy.
Yeah, Animal is happy, but he always has like this picture of like just a board of shit.
Oh, yeah.
And like just like him sitting there
Yeah.
by himself, probably in his basement, super high, playing like all the noises all at once.
Figuring out the albums, once I figured them out, there were a lot of songs, like with Buchan Gaze. I had a really hard time narrowing it down to one song that I wanted to have featured, I guess, so to speak. This came out earlier in 2013, I think, and I was really taken by it because of what the woman does with her voice. Certain aspects of her voice that remind me of gossip vocals as well, or it's sort of a little bit of a vibrato to her voice.
No, she almost has a orchestral sort of tone at times. I mean, she's clearly like very good. Like she's really good at the acrobatics she's doing in her voice, and I usually use acrobatics pejoratively to talk about like Christina Aguilera over singing and stuff, but she's very like deliberate and makes choices about where to do it properly, and it works nicely.
Yeah. I think their last EP, Function Falls, was released through Wired. Like, it was available to stream through Wired before anywhere else, which sort of makes sense in a weird way, too. But, okay.
And I'll be honest, I don't understand about 70% of the lyrics in this album because of the way it functions, but I don't really care because
Depending on the
it's
album,
so cool.
that really matters so little a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Usually I'm really wedded to lyrics, but this time around it's like half the things you can't understand, but I don't care because I just like the full product.
No, it's a complicated thing. I think like lyrics can really like help bring you far closer to a song, and like they can double or triple up your enjoyment of it. But with a certain type of song, it can also not matter. Like I don't think it's a black or white sort of situation where you either like I'm into lyrics or not. It's I'm into the type of music, and some music it's necessary, some music is not necessary.
Yeah. Okay, Nate, it's your turn.
Okay, I'm going to do complete counter programming and change it up instead of following with the vibe, because my plan is to try to squeeze as many songs in here as possible before we end this thing. But one of the songs that has to be included for me is a Man Man song because I've been listening to them for years. And I've seen them live multiple times. I first ran across them at I had no idea who they were. I think it was the second Pitchfork Festival in Chicago, when it was still like when they were first trying to figure out how to do it. Because the first Pitchfork Festival was kind of like not called the Pitchfork Festival. They did it in concert with some other people, and I went to that too. I think it was the first official Pitchfork Festival, which I think in my mind as the second one. That they just started playing, and I wandered over to the stage, and they're like had amazing energy live. They're very playful, very fun. Back then they used to dress up. They always wore white polo shirts and put on like Native American war makeup, white streaks across their cheeks, and they also do really fun things. Like they have like kind of creative percussion. Like they'll have a bowl and they'll like throw spoons at it for crashes in songs and anything they need to do. The main guy in the band, his name is also awesome, which sounds exactly, when you hear the song, you hear his voice, and you hear the way he acts, the fact that his name is Honus will just be fucking perfect.
Is that his real name? I'm trying to find that right now, actually.
I've never tried to figure out if it's his real name. It's his name. He's goddamn Honus. He kind of sounds like if, I don't know, he's like if Frank Zappa ate Tom Waits. He sounds a little bit like that.
That's.
If it's not his real name, Nate doesn't want to know.
Some of their older albums sound very Waitsy influenced.
Yeah.
But I really love them. They're really great at having energy. And when I saw them live the first time, I was like, this is just amazing. This is a wonderful show. It was my favorite takeaway show from all of the Pitchfork Festival, and I didn't have any idea who they were. And like going to shows and hearing a band that you've never heard before, usually when you go to a show, what you like most is hearing the songs you like. Mm-hmm. Already, and I hadn't heard a single song from them, and it was the favorite performance of the whole thing. But I always thought their album is probably not going to be that great because they're not going to be able to have that energy. But they're very good at having a lot of energy and strong charisma, and his voice and his persona. He's definitely a persona singer, which is something I tend to be drawn to. And he it all comes through wonderfully. And so I've been listening to them since early 2000s. This is from their newest album, and it's called Loot My Body.
Okay, I got two things first.
Yes.
All of their names are kind of funny. They're initially, the band included Tiberius Lynn, Clint Killingsworth, and Stephen Dufala. They left and were replaced by, and these are pseudonyms.
There's been a long list of rotating characters in
so
this
they were
band.
replaced by Powwow, Brown Sugar, and Shono Murphy.
So these are their real names, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to say that when I saw your list, when you sent the email of which songs you wanted last night, it may have been the alcohol, it may have been because I'm stupid, but I swore this said Loot My Booty, which is maybe an even better title of Loot My Booty. But regardless,
That'd be on the Bats album, then.
I have to say, right before you play, I have to say, the one thing that really conflicted me, because there were two songs I was going back and forth of that I wanted to play from Man Man. I knew I was going to play a Man Man song because this is one of the bands I've been listening to for years. It came out with an album this year, and it's actually one of their best in years. So I'm not doing I just want to highlight you because I've always liked you. Like, this is actually, I really love this album. And the other song that I maybe wanted to play was called Pink Wonton, and one of the main reasons I wanted to play it was because it has the line, "Waterboard me with Call Me Maybe" in it. But the song in the end seems better for the podcast, Loot My Body.
Down. Will I miss you? Will I crush you? Will you be like a little bitch under pressure? Will your friends come along and say, I knew him before he was a butter. In hindsight, I dig him this way in this format as a butter. Feel free to loot my body. Just take whatever you want. Feel free to loot my body. Just take whatever you need. Feel free to loot my body. Don't start a band. Post-apocalyptic babe, will you be my
miss ya? Will I crush ya? Will you shatter like a fish under pressure? Will your friends come along and say, hey, well, I knew him before he was trouble. In the big scope, better this way. It's a fine choice life as a puddle. Feel free to loot my body.
Just take whatever you want.
Feel free to loot my body.
Just take whatever you need.
Feel free to loot my body.
Just take whatever you want.
But please, don't start a band.
One of the things I mentioned this, whatever day I think it was yesterday, that listening through these, everyone's picks seem very much like them. Like this is very much a Nate band. Like it sounds like the thing that you would very much like. Like it's got the Tom Waits sort of
Man
Man
and Man is probably like of anything that like it's lucky for me it's Man year because they're like one of anything I listen to, not just things that came out this year. Man is one of the things I'd probably put on my short list if I had to list Nate bands.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Feel free to loot my body. 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 Feel free to loot it all. Have you learned nothing at all when the curtain comes crashing down? Will I miss ya? Will I crush ya? Will you bend like a little bitch under pressure? Will your friends come along and say, hell, I knew him before he was a puddle. In hindsight, I dig him this way.
So, which one of you guys rather I play next? Part of the Frisk Fruit song or the crazy Mark Kozilek, or however you say his name?
I say Kozilek. I
Okay.
actually like those.
I do too. So this is I can't talk over it because the lyrics are the joke of it, or the part of the bit. But Mark, I think Kozilek is how you'd say it.
How's it spelled?
Looks like
Kozelek. He's the guy from Red House Painters. Back in
Kozilek?
Kozilek.
Kozilek, I'd probably
Mark
say.
Mark KZ. But he was part of the Red House Painters, which were pretty popular back when I was in college, I believe. And then also Sun Kill Moon is his new band by him, or band, I guess. But he also has been releasing albums under his name alone, including.
I didn't know he was that Sun Kill Moon.
Yeah, this is the same guy. He's this for whatever reason. This year he released a bunch of albums under his own name, and then did one album that was just him, called Like Rats, and then two albums that were paired with someone else. So the song I'm going to play is from the Mark Kozilek and Desert Shore album, which has no title. And then the other one was with Jimmy LaValle, who is the Album Leaf guy, and that one was Perils from the Sea, which I think I might like that album better. But the song that I wanted to play is called Livingston Bramble, and mainly I wanted to play this because I like the song and I like him and I like his way, his voice and his tones, but also his lyrics are super funny to me because they feel like they literally are just shit that's in a notebook, and they sound like the way that my kids make up songs where it's just like, I'm walking down the road, I'm seeing things, there are things that are happening, I like things, and it's kind of got that sort of like whatever the fuck. Like one of the lines in here is something like, I was walking to the store and I saw a bum. He was homeless. He asked me for money. I gave him a 20. I went to get some water. I went and played my guitar. It's really just like...
It sounds like the lyrical version of if you need to fake your name and your fake name ends up being the first thing you see.
Yeah.
My name's Nathan. Window pane.
So here we go.
Livingston had a pretty good run with red boom boom and sea. Watched it last night on my TV on classic ESP. Laying in bed next to my girlfriend, I drifted off looking at the He wanted some money and he was homeless. I gave him some time and $20. I shook his hand and I said good. Then I went to the delicatessen and got a bottle of water before my session. And I worked out a couple of songs and I played my guitar all day long. Then I worked out a couple of songs and I played my guitar all day long. I can play like Philip or Johnny Marr, and I can play circles round Jay Farrar. I like Jeff Beck, pays just fine, but I hate their drugs and Nils Klein. I hate Nils Klein. Gotten late last night from the street. Keith Thurman had a fight on HBO. Rounds went by pretty goddamn slow, but he left with a record of 20. It was 3 a.m. and my girl was asleep. It was 11 a.m. So I called my Spanish promoter about a tour coming up in October. It was 4 a.m. when I hung up and I cuddled up next to my love. It was 4 a.m. when I went to bed, couldn't shut the guitars off in my head. I can play like Malcolm and Neil Young, and I can play circles round most anyone. I like Kirk Campbell and Steve Vai, but I hate Eric Clapton and Nils Klein. I hate Nils Klein.
Okay, you're up.
Okay, my last pick is Hearts Like Ours by The Naked and Famous, and this is another one where I almost went with Stillness instead, and this, I was a little hesitant about picking this song because it's on the radio as well, and it's, in one sense, one of the more mainstreamy things, but one of the main reasons it was hard, especially retrospectively, to choose 10 albums is because...
Are Naked and Famous mainstreamy?
I don't know, they're on the radio,
They're on the
so...
radio.
Are they? Like top 40 radio?
I don't think it's top 40, no. It
think
might
they're on,
be
like, college
Witter,
radio.
yeah.
Oh, well,
But nonetheless, I mean, the reason why retrospectively it was hard for me to choose 10 albums is because as soon as I heard this album for the first time, it just, I didn't care about anything else. And I like this, these guys are from New Zealand, and that's all I know, again, about them, and I like their previous album. But for me, it's been a really, really, really long time since I have so thoroughly enjoyed an album and been so, at the risk of sounding sappy, been so moved by an album in its totality that this...
Loser.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Go back to your little emo corner.
Yeah, girl, you girl.
Can you push the hair out of your eye?
I'll flip it out over here.
No, I actually appreciate that sentiment, which is why I was making fun of it, because that's what I
Okay.
do.
But I mean,
One of my
this,
friends is listening to Dale Earnhardt Jr. right now on Spotify.
that's
Was it
not
because we
important.
were listening to it?
Probably.
It's the earlier one, so...
But I mean, so this album, it's been a really long time since I've been that affected by an album and that moved by something that it just overshadowed anything else that I had listened to. And even just this morning, I was listening to the third song, whose title I forgot that I'd chosen, which is one of those kind of tongue-in-cheek breakup-y songs where both parties, the mess, both parties are just like, screw you, like, I don't really care. But there are so many points in this album that I literally get goosebumps at the combination of the music and the lyrics. And I know, Chad, you say that you like the expansiveness of this album, and I tried describing it once, and I'm probably not describing it well enough, but this album it doesn't make me feel nostalgic, but it sounds to me like the feeling you get when you are nostalgic about something. That's kind of the feeling that I get when listening to much of this album, but it doesn't make me specifically nostalgic for something, if that makes any sense. It's like the goosebumpy, expansive, whatever feeling of nostalgia without having something specific, again, that word specific, tied to it.
I'm going to say one thing. If you like the Passive Me Aggressive You album, the earlier one, the two songs, The Source and The Sun, that are back-to-back, The Source is 48 seconds, like, piano intro to The Sun, are incredible to me. The Sun just falls apart. And the other thing is, one of their songs was in the movie Carrie, the remake of Carrie, and it was Young Blood, of course.
Yeah, which is also a really good song.
What else would it have been?
What a convenient choice.
But I mean, but this entire album, I love it, and it's one of those albums for me that I don't even have to be in the mood for it. A song can come on, I can catch a bit of it, and I'm in. I'm all in right away. this is a great album to just blast. Just don't listen to it quietly.
It'd be good for like when we used to play pool at
Yeah.
Scotland Yard and play the music over top.
Yeah.
This would be good
Yeah.
for that if they ever had that, if that ever worked. Okay, Nate, you're out.
I'm going to go with playing a song by a group called Moon Hooch.
Okay.
The song is called Number 5. They are a band with 2 saxophonists. I think it's an alto and a tenor, or an alto and a baritone and a drummer. And they got started playing train stations in New York. They self-released their own album, and then the appropriate famous person saw them and said, "Come tour with me." And they toured with him. I think it was Mike Doty, whatever his name is.
Wow. And now they're playing the Mercury Lounge.
And now they're in Austin?
No, in New York.
And yeah, when you hear them, it'll make perfect sense that you can imagine them busking at train stations. And I think this album is filled with energy and lovely. And it connect man together with this. You can see some of the connecting tissue of things that I like and why I like them.
Okay, so number 5.
But this is one of those albums that, like, I really like this album. It's one of my favorites of the year, but I wanted to pick it out over maybe some albums I listened to more or held more closely throughout the year, because I don't think anyone has any idea who these people are.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful, and more people should.
torn now, guys. I could either play the album that I discovered today from that crazy place that I want to go visit, or part of the White Hills song, which will just be like a total rock out song.
I'm ending with Rocking Out, so...
You're ending with Rocking Out?
I don't know what that means for you. That means you could either join in on ending with Rocking Out or counter-program to it.
I will rock out. I don't know much about White Hills either, but I do want to say that my favorite album of the year probably was the Forest Swords album, which you probably didn't like at all because it's one of your electronic ones. But I find that album is like my favorite, but I don't think it plays very well on this podcast.
Yeah.
So instead, and then the other album that I was considering that I just found out about today, but came out last year, is this album called Costa Blanca by the Limonanias. Who are from Perpignan, I think is how we say it. We have no idea. But we looked it up online. It's like a part of Catalonia where they speak mostly French and Catalan, and their songs are mostly in French, but they're amazing. And that place that they're from, the little town, is like looks like a fairy tale, like you said.
Yeah.
So that I kind of want to play that just because that would be kind of cool. So I'm going to change my mind and just do that. So here's one of their songs, because I think you'll like it too. It's called My Black Sabbath. So you're up, Kaija. Let's run through one more round here.
I need to see the list then because
Fast as
I
you
wasn't
can.
planning on another
Unless you
one.
want to just skip your turn.
No, I'm not gonna skip a turn.
Oh, you should play your Icelandic guy, which I can play on here.
Sinfang. Or no,
the other one.
Toasty. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, okay. Do you know which song?
I think you do any song.
Okay, I'm going to do the title track.
Okay, yeah.
You want to say who he is?
It's like
God.
Eskir Toasty.
Trausti is the ending part, but the beginning I don't know. He is on Spotify as just ice skier or whatever you say, and not with the Trousty part, but it doesn't have this album on there.
Yeah. And this was something that we were in Iceland for the literature festival there, and in a van on the way to ride the coolest Icelandic pony / horses ever. And the guy driving the van was just playing this
On loop.
on loop. I mean, it started off. I'm not a fan of Bon Iver and those types of things that leave me feeling kind of empty inside. But there's something about this that just it seems to have what those other similar artists lack, at least to me. But either way, we asked him about it and had him write it down or had him dictate how to spell it. And then I found the album while we were still in Reykjavik, and then we promptly put it on the Dropbox.
So this is the title track of the album, which for all our Icelandic fans that are listening, check this one out. So I'm gonna call it Dyrod I Dagda Fang. It's all sorts of shit that I can't begin to say. It's got two of the D's with the cross through them, an umlaut, and the character that's like looks like a BP added together. So it's got the one line with a circle in the middle,
somehow
which means something.
Somehow the way you pronounced it sounded vaguely racist towards Asians.
You should just said it was Bork and left it at that.
Takk mína hand, lítum öxl, leysum band, frá myrkri martröð sem draugar vagg og velta, lengra, lægra, oft vilja daginn svelta. Stór agnarök, oft dýrð í dauða þögn, í miðjum draumi sem heitum höndum vefur, lengra, hærra, loft nýjan dag upphefur. Finnum hvernig hugur fer fram úr sjálfum sér og allt sem verður, sem var og sem núna.
When I was looking him up today or yesterday, this album broke every sales record in Icelandic record history apparently, and they believe that more than 10% of all Icelandic people own this album.
Veruleika sem vissa ver og klæðir, slengra nærja, oft til að daginn flæðir. Finnum hvernig hugur fer fram úr sjálfum sér og
Okay, Nate, you want to rock out?
Okay, so this is closing it out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna close it out with
Miley.
Party in the USA.
Put my hands up to play my song. The butterflies fly away. Not in my head like yeah.
Okay, last song. This song is for my youth. Walter Schreifels was in a band called Gorilla Biscuits, which was one of the greatest post-punk
They're
bands
just
ever.
making shit up.
I know. And then he was in a band called Waffle Makers.
And then
Window
he was in
pane.
Miley Cyrus.
Gorilla Biscuits is real, and they're amazing. You should, if you have Spotify or something, look up Gorilla Biscuits. They're one album, basically. Gorilla Biscuits was a seminal post-hardcore band, post-punk, post-hardcore, and then Walter Schreifels was a guitarist for them. Then he was a guitarist and lead singer for Quicksand, one of my favorite bands of the 90s. Saw them live at the Vic in Chicago. It was wonderful. With Civ opening for them. Civ being the new band with the lead singer members of Gorilla Biscuits, opening for Walter Schreifels' new band, Quicksand, which is post-hardcore wonderfulness. He was seminal in the New York post-punk, post-hardcore scene. He's been in a few bands since then. This album he's now in a band called Rival Schools, on and off, which apparently I didn't even know he was doing this, but he's been in it for some years, starting from the early 2000s, and they broke up for a very long time. Now they're back together again, released a new album a couple years ago. This album is actually an album that they wrote and were about to release in 2003, I think it was. But the band broke up right before they released it. They've actually since made a brand new album, brand new material, but now they've released this old album. It's only available on vinyl. It's as I
And Spotify.
I went in digital, like digital download, but you can't buy a CD of it if you wanted to. They didn't release it at all, so it's like, and as one site said, this album is for Walter Schreifels' diehard fans, which is exactly who I am. And it's like, yep, that's exactly why I'm pulling this out, why I'm playing it. And it reminds me of everything I loved in the 90s, and he's still wonderful at what he does. Punk hardcore guys don't age well as a species, because it's a young man's game. But he's doing fine, and he's still doing a great job, and it reminds me of Quicksand, which I love. This is a song, a very quick 2-minute, 27-second kind of thrash song called Sophia Loren.
Spread it out too thin, you'll have to come back around again. How could I have forgotten your name so quick? Now up a flash in the pan, fight up from man out of man. Wearing glasses, looking down all the way, picturing shot after shot. Alone or with friends who wanna see what you got. Every day, starts with Sophia Loren. We got the film and the camera, searching for the perfection we had and lost. Spreading out too thin, you'll have to come back around again. Do it over, do it over. Yeah, I wanna see what you got. Every day.
I got my 90s hardcore masturbation in there. I'm happy.
That should just be
Good
It's the last song. Turn off your computers now.